it is a significant problem. It's, you know, when you put that many young people together with alcohol and the hormones that, you know, young people have, it's, you know, it can invite a lot of trouble. And so I think we're on a good path, but, you know, something that, you know, we all can be vigilant of long in the future.
Thank you so much for being here. I know from a point of student debt and tuition, you're looking at it on the front end where it can be handled and tuition not be that high. You talk about the $1.4 trillion of student debt that's out there today. What do you think about some of the policies and some of the suggestions out there that maybe those students only pay a percentage of their salary for the first 10 or 20 years, which would, if you want to know what I think, would completely corrupt the relationship of lender and debtor if you take those existing loans? But what's the solution to the money that's already out there being owed?
Wow, that's really tough for the money that's already out there. Most of what I've heard about these income repayment plans are still related to new debt. Although the federal government, I think, has allowed some people to opt into that kind of plan. It's a tremendous challenge. I mean, you have the lenders, like you say, the creditors who, you know, have put up their money and have something at stake. I think it's the taxpayers that are eventually going to suffer, or, you know, the economy won't support it now, but that, like a lot of our debt, eventually the federal government will just kind of have to inflate its way out of it. So it doesn't look good. To keep it from escalating even further, though, and I didn't really touch that much on this, but stronger governance over time would be the solution. It's the cost side of the equation that really has to be brought under control. And the free flow of federal credit that's led to the $1.4 trillion just encourages bad spending behavior. And it's like subprime mortgages during the housing crisis. It's just, I think, a balloon that's building that will eventually have to pop. Tom?
As a parent of a current UVA student, if you were still the director and the board had more power, I guess, on the direct governance, how would you spend the $6 billion that's sitting up there in Charlottesville?
Well, unfortunately, about 2/3 to 3/4 of that $6 billion is restricted by the donors. So you have, you know, a third of that $2 billion that's accessible, and then on top of that, this other $2 billion that was, you know, accumulated over a period of 9 years. And I would be looking to put it into scholarships for low-income people, income kids. I'd be looking to explore investments in innovative, high-quality delivery systems that could bring the cost down structurally and be sustainable. You may have read that Purdue University last week announced that it was buying Kaplan's online for $1, but they have a pretty complicated deal on how that's supposed to work. And I'm not saying that's the solution for UVA. I'm not saying it's the solution for any Virginia public college, but I think that others are exploring and they're testing and they're trying things, and I just don't see that happening here in Virginia. I don't know if that answers your question, but
You alluded, or you mentioned the Khan Academy, and you referred to alternative modes of education. What do you see as the role of for-profit colleges in our system, and specifically letting the marketplace work and bringing down these costs that state universities are escalating?
well, if you really wanted to bring the cost down, what you would do is take a look at the accreditation system. Because the accreditation system sort of serves as a barrier to entry for competitors. And it was originally, you know, put put in place to assure quality, and I'm sure that it has a role in that. I'm sure there's probably some need to assure quality, and you can see consumers now kind of wising up to some of the bad practices of some for-profit organizations. But if it were easier to get into the business, then that would, I think, have a greater impact than anything. So these, like I said, they're very complex problems and challenges. And Virginia's issue, I think, is that we don't have the best minds in the room when it comes to solving them. It's been too easy for the General Assembly to say, we're just going to kind of let you all do your own thing, because then we don't have to fund you so much. Some members of the General Assembly. Senator G. Steph notwithstanding. But, and keep a very close, a very close policy, group in place. And that's just not serving Virginians very well. So I think that there, like I said, this ed tech industry, is really something else that's, you don't hear much about it in Virginia because there's not a lot of opportunity here with the policies that we have in place. But around the country, I think they're making a big difference. They're trying to kind of go at it around, from the outside. What I'm suggesting is that if we want our prized institutions to remain relevant in the long run, we need to come up with public policies that will assure that they are.
We have a question.
Yeah.
Hi, you mentioned 2 presidential searches, and I'm curious to know, given your thoughts on what's going on, what skill sets do you think would make sense if you could determine the future? What would that
That's a great question. The role of the college president has changed a lot over the years. Most schools have gotten, they're big, complex businesses. UVA is a $3+ billion enterprise, for instance. And so typically nowadays, the president is much more of the outward-facing leader, the fundraiser, the one who helps with the board, sets the vision, and then implements it, and the provost is more the academic leader. So you are seeing many more sort of non-traditional, non-academic presidents in the field. Studies show that the best indicator of success in a college presidency is someone who's already been a college president. So that they cut their teeth and make their mistakes somewhere else, and then come to a bigger university, a more complex university, and be more prepared for the job. I think that I would love to see someone with an innovative perspective in both of these new roles. And then someone who understands Virginia and its unique quirks, its legislature, its people, its challenges. Virginia has become much more regionally diverse than it used to be. Northern Virginia's thriving, Richmond's thriving, Hampton Roads, kind of just treading water, and then the rest of the state is really suffering. So I think that if you'd asked me that question 10 years ago, I would have said we should search the country for the best and brightest, and that wouldn't be all that high on my list, but I feel differently about that now. I think the relationship with the General Assembly is so important, and that at the end of the day, the boards are under the control of the General Assembly, and the presidents are under the control of the board. And so they're not that far from the General Assembly, and the work that needs to be done to make sure that our investments are relevant long into the future, it's going to require a lot of work with the legislators. So I'd be looking for someone with some good Virginia ties as well.
Thank you again for being here. I'm 26 years old, a few years out of college, and I'm just curious, as a millennial, it can sometimes seem a little impossible to be involved in enacting some of these changes that you're talking about, but as a member of this upcoming generation, and as I talk to a lot of my friends who have these same concerns, and as you know, we have a stake in these public institutions, what would your suggestions be for folks in my generation who are moving back home, just starting out? How can we get involved in enacting some of these changes?
Wow. Well, I'll sign you up right after this talk. I actually believe that if there isn't a grassroots effort, not only in Virginia, but across the country, that the young people like you and maybe one day your kids really don't have much of a hope, because that those voices are so disaggregated, and people don't, like you say, people don't know what to do. You're not a plant in the audience, but I do go around all the time and say, these people don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. They know it's a problem. Like I said, I was encouraged a lot when the board was going through what it was going through, but no one had a place to turn. So I would love to see both young people and parents form an association like the AASP, American Association of Students and Parents, and then have business associations that are already together and are really impacted, like the Home Builders Association, Car Dealers Associations, Chambers of Commerce, come together to raise awareness about this issue and serve as a counterbalancing voice to some of the institutional interests that make it difficult. So I would be happy to put you to work.
Thank you.
Absolutely. What else? Sir.
The student debt amount that you mentioned staggers me as well. And are other states, is that a Virginia, it's not a Virginia issue only, but
No.
attacking the debt and repayment, are other states doing anything that Virginia could mimic or copy? Or are there any other programs somewhere else that can help rid the debt?
Other states I know of are doing things to try to reduce the costs for students coming in. But I don't know about debt forgiveness, because most of it is federal debt. The parents take on a lot of debt that really isn't even counted. A lot of parents will take on debt before they'll have their children do it too. But I do see a lot of other states doing things to bring the cost down. Tennessee is now offering free community college, and they've taken, I can't remember